So come back to that feeling of tolerance and acceptance for other living beings, knowing that they're doing their best given their circumstances, physical and mental, and also realizing that if we get upset with them, that is coming from us and our buttons. And so in that way, having a larger perspective towards other living beings, not expecting them to be what we want them to be or do what we want them to be, do what we want them to do, but simply wishing the best for them, wanting to work for their benefit, and knowing that this is a slow path, because there's a lot of conditioning there, our conditioning, their conditioning, but by the force of strong love, compassion, and altruism, we can accomplish this path and gain the skills to work for the welfare of other living beings with more open-mindedness and more efficacy. And so we need to first learn the path, and that's why we're here listening this morning. Okay. So we've talked about 2 of the 5 hindrances. The first one being sensual desire and the second one being ill will. The next one is drowsiness and dullness. Okay, you know that one? No. You're too busy sleeping to know it. Yeah. So, it's amazing. You could be wide awake 1 minute, and as soon as you sit down to meditate, boing, off to sleep. Yeah. And like I said, it's not necessarily because of shortage of sleep. It's obscuration in the mind that's, making the mind dull and resistant to the Dharma. There's many ways in which we're resistant to the Dharma. Yeah, falling asleep is one of them, because clearly when we're asleep we can't take anything in, can we? Yeah, so the mind is just self-centered thought is blocking everything out. So, so that's drowsiness. And then dullness is just the mind is dull. You're not asleep, but the mind is dull. It's lazy. It doesn't want to do anything. Yeah, it's just sitting there like that. Yeah, so you're not asleep, but your mind's not vibrant. It's not, clear. It's not active. It's just, dull and diminished in power. So these two are, similar to each other in that they're going on the side of non-activity. Okay? So some tips to help counteract them. For dullness, and also to some extent for drowsiness, saying the Manjushri mantra is very helpful. Manjushri is this particular Buddha here. He's the Buddha of wisdom, this one. Yeah, who's holding the sword that cuts through our ignorance and our obscuration. And so saying his mantra is very helpful. It's Omarapasanadi. Somebody can write it down for you, maybe at lunch, and circulate it. Yeah. I guess I could spell it out now. Okay, Om, O-M, A-A-H, Om, Ra, R-A, Pa, P-A, Pa, Sa, T-S-A, Om, Ra, Pa, Sa, Na, N-A, and then D-H-I-H. Omarapasanadi. And so you can say this many times, and then you say the last syllable, many, many times, as long as you can on one breath. Yeah, so I can't do it so long, but and then you swallow, because you're imagining the letter D on the back of your tongue, and you think you're swallowing the D. You're imagining light come in. There's a whole visualization with it, but I just want to give you something simple right now. So that's quite helpful. Also very helpful to say in the morning, when you're kind of groggy when you get up, to stimulate the mind. And then doing prostrations, not only for the physical movement, but for the purification that it does. Taking long walks, looking long distances, either in the day or the evening, really very good for expanding your mind. Especially, you're here and you look out into the stars and you think how far away they are. And, your mind just expands, thinking about, how far away they are and how many sentient beings there are between here and there, and what's happening to all those sentient beings and so on. Also, doing yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, any kind of stretching or exercise is good. Splashing cold water on your face before you sit is also helpful. Lama Yeshe had a trick that he used to do with the little boys at Kopan when they were in puja and they'd fall asleep. He would have a water bowl and fill it with water, put it on their head. And that helped to keep the little boys awake, because if it fell off the crown of your head, it made some noise, and then of course everybody knew you were dozing off. So that works as well. We should try it here sometime. Yeah. Also, if you're doing the breathing meditation, when you exhale, imagine that you're exhaling the dull mind in the form of smoke, and as it leaves, it just vanishes. It vanishes. You're not polluting the room. And then when you inhale, think that you're inhaling a bright, alert mind in the form of light, and that light comes in and permeates your whole body. If you're visualizing the Buddha, make the Buddha lighter. Think of the Buddha being, first of all, make sure you aren't visualizing a statue, making the Buddha heavy, physically heavy. You want a light Buddha, but also a bright Buddha too, so that the golden light is very, very shining everywhere for you. Okay, so all of that is quite helpful. especially inhaling the light, exhaling the smoke. Okay. They say if you really can't wake up, then it's better to break your session, go out, do something, and then come back. But we tend to break our session, go out and do something, and not come back. So that's not to be done. Yeah. But if you're really exhausted or very dull, go out, look long distances, get some exercise, do prostrations, then come back and sit some more. Okay. So that's that one. Then restlessness and remorse. This is the fourth one, so it has two factors. Yeah. So restlessness, this one is interesting. The Sanskrit term for it is the same one that in the Tibetan tradition we translate as excitement. And in the Sanskrit tradition, in the Tibetan explanation, they say that it's the mind that is either distracted to an object of attachment or just about ready to get distracted to such an object. In the Pali tradition, it's defined slightly differently, which I think really makes a lot of sense. So here, restlessness means anxiety. Yeah, your mind is not peaceful. It's restless. It's agitated. You're worrying. You're anxious. You're fearful. You're turbulent inside. So clearly, when that is going on in our mind, it's going to be very difficult to concentrate, isn't it? And it's interesting that it's pointed out here because I think anxiety, just my unscientific study, I think anxiety is a very, very prevalent affliction right now. I meet so many people, because of the fast pace of life or the pressure that they put them on themselves to be somebody. I find many people very, very anxious. The mind's full of worry, full of fear, on edge, wondering what's going to happen. Yeah, wondering, did I do something right? Did I do something wrong? What do these people think of me? What's going to happen to my job? If I have my job, I'm not going to be unhappy because I don't like it. If I lose my job, I'm not going to be unhappy because I won't have it. Everywhere I look, I'm not going to be unhappy. What am I going to do? What's going to happen if Trump wins? What's going to happen if Hillary wins? What's going to happen to the world? My kid flunked their spelling test. This is awful. And another kid stubbed their toe, and I can't bear it. And there's so much suffering in the world, and just this free-floating anxiety. Would you agree? Yeah. And it's the mind, the self-centered mind, is just it's doing its creative writing overtime. Yeah, dreaming up all sorts of stories about who knows what. Oh, there's this new colleague at work. I'm not sure. Maybe, who are they? Maybe they're going to harm me. Where are they from? What do they believe in? Are they mentally ill? Maybe I'm mentally ill. Maybe the boss is mentally ill. Maybe we're all mentally ill. What are we going to do? This is a terrible situation, and we have a deadline, and boy, so much energy goes into worrying about things that may never happen. Yeah? So I think that's basically what anxiety is, isn't it? we're anxious about the future. We're not so anxious about the past. We could be. Well, what did that mean when that person said that? But it's the anxiety about the past is because we're worried about what's going to happen in the future. Well, why did they say that in the past? Why am I interested in that? Because maybe something else is going to happen in the future and I need to be aware of it. And so here we are, the only time we ever have to live is now. And our mind is, making up all sorts of stories starring ourselves in the future. And, are we even aware of our anxiety sometimes? Or is the anxiety just there, working, churning away, and we're not even aware we're anxious? Yeah. I remember one time I forget what it was, but thinking, wow, I didn't even know I was anxious. And, then looking at my mind, and yeah, I'm pretty anxious about this. It's like, how much time went by, I didn't even notice I was anxious. Yeah. Our health, that's another one that we get anxious about. Yeah. Oh, I hurt there. Oh, I hurt there. Oh, everything, my body is falling apart. This is terrible. I'm going to die. I can't stand it. I'm going to be separated from everything I have. I know the Buddha taught about death, but I don't want to do the meditation to prepare my mind for death because I'm too anxious that I'm going to die. Right? Yeah. The back of my ear hurts. Oh, I'm sure this is terminal. Yeah. So, we get so anxious over things. And, how much of it ever happens? How much of it ever really happens? And how much of our time, which is actually our most valuable possession, is our time, how much time do we spend, anxious, worried, afraid, hypothesizing about something that's never happened and is very unlikely to happen? Yeah. Meanwhile, the one thing that is going to happen, which is we will leave this life, we don't reflect on and don't prepare for. Yeah? But we're all prepared, if I lose my job, then on Monday morning I'll go down to this office and then that office and the other office. We're all prepared, But is that really going to happen? Okay, so remedy for anxiety? I don't know.
Well, that makes me anxious if you don't know.
Well, I'm already anxious because I don't know. Yeah? And I worry about it because I don't have a remedy for anxiety, and I'm so worried about not having a remedy for anxiety. I need a remedy for anxiety because what's going to happen to me if I don't have a remedy for anxiety? And do you have a remedy for anxiety? You don't either. Oh, no, now there's two of us. What's going to happen? This world is just dissolving into one anxious hurricane. Yeah? So, what I find helpful for anxiety is just to stop. Just like, okay, stop. Press the stop button. I don't need to think about all of this. It's useless mental chatter. Yeah. If it's something that possibly could happen, then I say, well, what resources do I have to deal with it if it possibly could happen? But most of the things that we're anxious about probably won't happen. Yeah. Or if they do happen, there's resources in the communities. We have our own Dharma practice, our own mental resource inside of ourselves. And when things happen that we don't want, they're the best time to practice the Dharma, and they're the best time that really advances our practice. So rather than worry about things falling apart, if things fall apart, say, okay, good, now I get to practice. I mean, I look and my teachers had to become refugees from one day to the next. I don't think they ever really thought they were going to be refugees. Yeah. They thought, well, we'll do some more pujas, we'll build a statue here and there, and the communist Chinese won't come and invade us. We'll continue on doing what we're doing. Yeah. And then from one day, the Chinese got to the Lhasa, and they invited His Holiness to an opera performance and said, come alone without anybody else. That you should get concerned about. Yeah. That is something to be concerned about. Okay. So His Holiness fled in the middle of the night, and there was an uprising, the next day in Lhasa, and most of my teachers went in. Most of them were in the Lhasa area. They went into the mountains. They brought their teacup with, because no good Tibetan goes anywhere without their teacup, and thought it's going to be over in a couple of days. We'll go back to the monastery, continue our study. When they heard that His Holiness had fled, then they decided to go too. And then suddenly there they are in March, crossing the Himalaya mountains, going from Tibet, where there's no viruses and bacteria, or very few because it's so high, down into the Indian plains, full of viruses and bacteria, as refugees with no money, nothing. Yeah. So, those kind of situations, yeah, you can see people are going to have some feel ill at ease or uneasy inside themselves. But what we get anxious about, is nothing like that, is it? Yeah. I think of the Syrian refugees. I don't have kids, but I thought, if I ever had a child and I was a refugee, my goodness, that would be terrible. Trying to protect your child and go somewhere and you don't know where you're going and you don't know how to speak the language and you hear that they're not going to let you in anyway. Then, okay, some worry. But even then, if you can be a good practitioner and not worry and just trust people and be kind to the people around you, it's going to be a whole lot better than falling into a frenzy. Isn't it? Yeah? When we can keep a sense of peace inside instead of, making up these horror stories and just, okay, whatever comes next, I'll deal with it. That's all. Okay? So I think learning to calm ourselves and to really ask ourselves, what is important to think about and what is not so important to think about. And, in terms of what is important to think about, how do we develop fortitude? Because if harm befalls us or bad situations befall us, which they will because we're in samsara, how do we keep a balanced mental state? How do we maintain a kind heart? How do we avoid from just, spinning around me, I, my, and mine, which will make us more miserable? So this is the kind of thing to ask ourselves, and then I think put some energy into doing the bodhicitta meditations. Equalizing friend, enemy, and stranger, so we can overcome attachment, anger, and confusion. Thinking of the kindness of sentient beings, wanting to repay that kindness. Thinking of the disadvantages of our self-centered mind and the benefits of cherishing others. But especially, I think, thinking about the kindness of others is a tremendous remedy for anxiety. Because then we begin to see, actually, in our life, there's kindness all around us. We're so anxious that we see fear, and we're fearful and suspicious. But actually, we're surrounded by kindness of other living beings. Yeah. And even if somebody's not kind, how can we be kind to them? Because if we can be kind to them, then at least our mind's going to be more peaceful than if we're angry and upset. Okay, so I think we have to work with this now and develop have a different outlook on life, because anxiety it's all focused around me, isn't it? Yeah, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to the people I care about? Because what happens to the people I care about will influence me. What about the rest of the world? Yeah? What about the big picture that's happening in the world? And develop some kindness towards all these people. Okay? So I think restlessness, anxiety, all the afflictions are useless, but that's really useless. Yeah. Because we're just spinning, aren't we? Okay, so there's restlessness. The other one that comes with it is remorse. Yeah. Now, here we have to differentiate remorse from regret. Because when we do purification practices, we want to have regret for our past negative actions. Just realizing that, we regret having done them. We don't want to experience the karmic result. We want to change our ways and act differently in the future. So regret is a good motivating factor for that. So that kind of regret is quite good. Here, the remorse that we're talking about is not just when we regret something and then we decide to purify, but we regret and then we feel guilty about it, and then we spin around it some more, and we think about it some more, and I shouldn't have done this, and I should have done that. And so remorse here it can sometimes be something in the back of your mind saying, I should have done that, or I shouldn't have done this. Yeah, so this kind of always doubting ourselves, criticizing ourselves, feeling guilty for things. Yeah, so that you can see why it's paired with restlessness, with anxiety, can't you? Yeah, because both of them are just spinning around ourselves. Well, so is sensual attachment and anger, but these two especially spin around ourselves. Okay, so remedy to remorse is, first of all, to be attentive and conscientious regarding our actions, so we don't do so many stupid things that then we have to regret them. Okay? In other words, let's try and learn from our mistakes. Yeah. When there's a red flag, let's stop and look at the red flag instead of dismissing it. Okay? So that we really learn, slow down, look at situations, make good decisions. That kind of preventative, process is quite good for us. Yeah. And then when we do make mistakes, to purify them instead of sitting there, feeling guilty and blaming ourselves, to do something to purify the karma and to, put it down so that our mind doesn't just, become like the Chinese sticky rice when you eat it and it sits in the bottom of your stomach for 2 weeks. Okay. Sorry. I know you like it. But, so to keep on top of our lives in some way, so that we prevent non-virtues that we can prevent, and that we fix things that we have done so that we don't carry them around on our back like a pile of bricks. Every year getting more and more bent over because we have more and more remorse. Okay? And then, so that's the fourth one, restlessness and remorse. Then the fifth one is doubt. And here it is, there's different kinds of doubt and different doubts in different situations. Here it's doubt over the method to develop serenity. Doubt about Dharma practice, but specifically because we're doing the meditation on serenity, what kind of doubt is going to disturb our mind the most? Am I doing it right? Is this the right technique to develop serenity? Did I understand it when I studied it? Am I doing it right? Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe, she said, make the Buddha about 4 inches tall. My Buddha's 3.5 inches tall. Do I have to stretch him out? What do I do? Okay. Maybe I shouldn't meditate on the Buddha at all. Maybe I should meditate on the breath. Maybe I should meditate on one of these colored casinos. Maybe I should meditate on love. That would be very nice. But no, I don't. Maybe I should do this or that. Or actually, I'm not at the right place to do my meditation. I should go, in the other room. If I'm in the other room, it's better. I can meditate better there. So this is kind of doubt plus anxiety. A toxic mixture. Okay. But just, do I have the right technique? Am I doing it right? Okay. And then the antidote to that, of course, is to go and ask questions and to study. And if you've studied how to generate, serenity, and you've asked questions, then, just do it. And if actual questions come up, then go and ask somebody knowledgeable for help. But don't manufacture questions that aren't there. Don't manufacture doubts. Okay? Doubt can also, in general, in our Buddhist practice, be a big distraction that keeps us from doing anything. Yeah. Oh, right now I'm studying Precious Human Life. Maybe I should study Refuge instead. No, I'm really interested in emptiness. I want to study emptiness. I don't understand that so well. So maybe I should go back and do something about cultivating love. But I'm more advanced than just doing that. I want to learn Dzogchen. What in the world is Dzogchen? What's the relationship between Dzogchen and Mahamudra and the wisdom of bliss and emptiness? I really want to learn about that. Yeah. But, maybe I really shouldn't do that. They say that's an advanced practice, so maybe I should do some prostrations instead. But, my friend did prostrations. My friend also did Vajrasattva. He said Vajrasattva worked better, so maybe I should do Vajrasattva as some purification practice. They say it's good to do purification practice. Why aren't I doing Vajrasattva already? Yeah. But anyway, if I went to this other Dharma center and studied with this other teacher, they don't advise doing Vajrasattva practice. They have you do something else. You're already meditating on this one or that Buddha or that. Maybe I should go. I heard that other teacher's good. And it's a different tradition. I really should try out some of the other Buddhist traditions. I'm really so narrow-minded. Just one teacher, one tradition. Maybe I should, I'm really not sure I have the best tradition for me. I really should go and learn something about Zen and go to Japan and really learn it from the experts, not just muck around in San Francisco. And while I'm in Japan, I should learn about Shinto as well. And Pure Land is so popular in Japan. But Zen and Pure Land actually came from China. So if I really want to get the pure tradition, I should learn Chinese Buddhism, and do that. So I don't know if I should go to China, maybe, they have good food there. I could It doesn't taste like American Chinese food, but it might be good. Okay, so we get filled with doubt. Maybe we're missing out on something. Yeah. Maybe there's a quicker, easier way to get fully enlightened. Yeah, that's more fun. And I'm missing out on it. And also, all my friends, they've sampled all 32 flavors and have an opinion about all of them, and I haven't. So what am I going to talk to my friends about? When I go to Sravasti Abbey and work in the woods, all the other volunteers are talking about all the other Dharma centers they've been at and what they've practiced there. And it's true, isn't it? Yeah. And, I've been here, I've been there doing this practice, that, or you should hear this teacher. How about that teacher? Where have you gone? And then, but I haven't been any of those places. This is terrible. What am I going to, they're going to think I'm a dunce. Okay. And I might really be missing out on something. So let's, get on my motorcycle and start doing a Dharma pilgrimage. Okay.
And then you die.
Yeah, and then you die. Yeah. Yeah. Because you want to try everything out first, and there's always some new teacher and some new book and some new tradition. Right, isn't there? Just pick up the New Age newspaper, and there's something new every week for $99.99. Yeah. And it's quicker than the 3 countless great eons. Yeah. So maybe we should do something else. Yeah, let's go. Okay. So doubt, this kind of doubt and, stirs up the mind. And then, of course, we don't accomplish anything because we're too busy spinning and doubting and going from here and going to there and never really settling and doing anything. Okay. So the antidote to doubt in our meditation, they say, is to do breathing meditation. Yeah, because it grounds your mind. Because again, with doubt, the mind is spinning. Put it back on the breath. And I think for anxiety, probably doing some breathing meditation would be very helpful as well. But then you can always be anxious because, you can't really breathe very well through your nose. Can you do breathing meditation through your mouth? One nostril is stronger than the other. How do I get them equal? Okay, so these are the 5 hindrances that we want to be aware of and then work with, so that they don't interfere with our practice of cultivating serenity and concentration. Okay, questions or comments? Yeah.
About meditation,
Mm-hmm.
it's oh, I sorry, I lost the question.
Mm-hmm. Okay, should we come back? Okay, yeah.
Is it okay to change meditation objects? Let's say that I start working with Medicine Buddha, and then for some reason it seems like Shakyamuni Buddha's form is easier.
Yeah, and then Tara comes in. Yeah, and says, Shakyamuni, move over a little bit. I want to be prime center. Yeah, and then after that, Chenrezig taps Tara on the shoulder and say, your time's up. I want to, yeah. No, it's best to stick with one thing and stay with that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Kind of related to this question then. So it's better, even though we may have other deities that we do, to actually do a kind of a separate meditation on concentration on the Buddha, like a separate concentration.
If you're already doing some deity practices, you could either do a separate meditation to develop serenity using the Buddha, or you can use one of the deities that you're already doing that practice of and use that as your object to develop serenity.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about doubt. Because I think I struggle with maybe a slightly different kind, which is just sort of like, you said yesterday, like, something about living in the city, like, you're not going to, you'll get something, but you're not going to, like, there. And so I guess I struggle with sort of like, is this really worth my time? Like, just sort of like, like the whole thing.
Okay, so doubt, like, okay, I don't have the perfect circumstances, I have a very busy life, but I want to practice some Dharma, but they say to really do it right, I have to do it this way, and I don't have the circumstances to do it right, and I don't really want to get those circumstances right now, so is it really worth my time? And, maybe I should just put it all down and go eat some chocolate and watch a movie. No, that's not a good solution. Okay? Whatever you can practice, you should practice. Okay? So instead of building ourselves like this thing of, here's the right way, the best, we always, because we're Americans, we've got to do things the best, and the right way, So here it is. The best and the right, and here I am, and so we do what we can. It's like when you're starving, every little bit of food you eat nourishes you. Yeah, even you can't sit down for a 10-course meal. Everything you eat is going to nourish you and help you. So you do what you can, yeah, and receive the benefit from what you're able to do. Because remember, discouragement is a form of laziness. Okay? So even, I think it's good if you can have a daily meditation practice. Even it's short, doing something every day is very, very worthwhile. And we nourish our body every day. We should nourish our heart every day. Yeah, so 15 minutes, half an hour, You just turn off the computer earlier, turn off the TV earlier. There's always 24 hours in the day. It depends on what we choose to do with them. And you just, make sure you have that time, and then you do some meditation or you do some reading. Then once in a while you come to a retreat like you're doing now. And in that way, over time, you're building up your practice and you're building your wisdom and compassion. And that's good, isn't it? It will affect your whole life and future lives as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I do meditation, like visualizing the Buddha, I also put like words on my mind so I can get more concentrated. And I also put the light in, play with the Buddha inside and then outside and in front and out, so I can really like keep focus. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. So when you say that you're using words, you're describing the visualization to yourself like that? Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Describing the visualization or even saying a mantra or...
Mm-hmm. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering when you were describing the different types of meditations, when I do the meditation on the Buddha compared to compassion or compared to just breathing, it kind of feels like it's like something in between. Like there's the concentration, but then there's a little bit of sort of transforming the mind when you think of its qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a little different when the breathing meditation takes place. Like it seems like you go in more to like serenity and just nothing, kind of like staying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because the object of meditation will influence you. But using the object of the Buddha, they say, has different benefits. The breathing may make your mind quite calm right now, but like I was saying before, being able to remember the Buddha and the Buddha's qualities, and especially when we're dying, having that right there for us can be very powerful. But different people will find different objects better to develop serenity on. So you have to kind of assess what helps you and what the advantages and disadvantages are. And you usually do that together with one of your teachers. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of in the comment that came up earlier about living in the city and is this even worth it? When we were meditating this morning, one of the kind of thoughts that came to my mind was, is this even worth it? And then it was this sort of realization in my mind that there's a part of me that feels like I'm just not capable of change.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the self-grasping ignorance saying that I'm a permanent, unchanging entity. And,
Yeah.
all this, like, what's it going to do anyways? And it's kind of the realization this is a background tape that I'm telling myself that I've tried so many other things and nothing's ever worked, so why is this going to be different? And so it was just kind of a reminder for me that sort of the idea of like dependent arising, that I'm constantly changing, that it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
not to get frustrated that it's not happening overnight.
Right. Yes, that's one of the big things, because we're in modern society, we want everything to happen quickly, and we want to be a success quickly, and we want to do it right quickly. Yeah, and there's something to be said for developing things slowly over time. And it's very good that you notice this background tape going, because I suspect a lot of people have it, the tape saying, I just can't do this. Yeah? Everybody else can, but I can't. I'm just not cut out for it. I'm not good enough for it. Let's just, Okay, but we have to remember that this is a different kind of endeavor. When I was little, I played the flute, and I was very good at the beginning. And so when you're good, then you have a lot of confidence. Then in middle school, yeah, I was in 8th grade, and I was playing first flute, and a 7th grader challenged me, and she did better than me. We were almost equal, except, there was the sign that you had to repeat the passage, and I didn't repeat it, and she did, and he gave her my seat because of that. I lost all my confidence. I said, a 7th grader. Yeah, after I've been so good, and over this small thing, and how am I ever going to, and it really went downhill from there. I mean, I continued to play flute in high school, but, it was nothing like before. You're getting true confessions. Okay, but things like that are different than practicing the Dharma, because things like that, whether you play the flute or not, whether you're good at it or not, really is not of any meaningful consequence in your life. Yeah? You can be perfectly happy putting that kind of thing down and doing something else. Dharma practice is incredibly important in our life. If we put that down, we're creating hell realm for ourselves. Yeah. So, playing the flute, learning how to use the latest whatever widget, these are our worldly skills, and everybody wants to be best, and you compare yourself with other people to see who's best. In spiritual practice, there's no way to really compare yourself with anybody else, because our spiritual practice is inside our hearts. Well, you may say, well, one person studied more than I have, blah, 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 blah. But you don't know in terms of spiritual practice, yeah, where you both are. Studying a lot isn't the sign of having transformed the mind necessarily. Okay, we really cannot compare ourselves to others. So it's useless to do that, and it's useless to then think other people are better than me. They're doing it right. I'm not doing it right because I live in the city and I don't have time and blah, 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 blah. Okay? Because, like I said, somebody can challenge you for your flute seat, but somebody can't challenge you in terms of where you are on the path. I say, I'm going to challenge you, let's have a contest, and I'm going to come out higher with more realizations than you. No, that doesn't happen. So we don't have to compete with anybody or compare ourselves to anybody. And Dharma practice is something that's crucially important, because it's the cause of all happiness. If we put down the cause of all happiness, what in the world are we doing to ourselves? Okay? Because the cause of all happiness is practicing virtue. How do we learn what is virtuous and what is not virtuous? By studying the Dharma. How do we create virtue? By practicing. So if we stop it, we're just shooting ourselves, not in the foot, but in the heart. We're creating big problems for ourselves. Okay, so it better do what you're capable of, and be content and rejoice in that, and then have the aspiration to do more in the future when circumstances change, or when you have more background or whatever. Yeah, having good aspirations is really something quite important on the path. Because it's setting the stage for what we're going to do in the future. So I can't do that now, but I aspire one day to be able to do it. And then that day will come and we'll be able to do it. But if we don't generate that aspiration, because we think, well, it's too much, I'll never be able to do it, then for sure we'll never be able to do it. Okay. Yeah?
My question is more about with Cynthia's question, is because when I used to meditate on my breath, and for me it's quite new meditate in the image of Buddha, but for me it's interesting because she tried to verbalize the image, and for me it's like a kind of noise verbalizing image.
Yeah.
So it means that the mind works different, but
Yeah.
it means at the end it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people are more verbal, some people are less verbal. It's fine. Some people learn by seeing, some people learn by hearing, some people learn by doing. Yeah. We're
It's the same.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I find, and I think because I read this, but I will frequently approach the meditation on the Buddha thinking that the Buddha is a manifestation of my root guru.
Mm-hmm.
And because
Yeah.
I've met my root, my
Yeah.
root guru, and I really appreciate their qualities, and I can have a feeling for that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't met the Buddhist, but I know of,
Yeah.
And so I think of my root guru as the Buddha,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'll start seeing the face of
Yeah.
instead of the face of the Buddha.
Right.
And getting, caught up in that.
Yeah, no, you want to keep it the face of the Buddha, but yeah, thinking that, your teacher's qualities are the same qualities as the Buddha, that's very helpful. Yeah, but don't keep it as the face of the Buddha, because if you change to your teacher's face, then it's very easy to get too hung up in the personality of the teacher, and that's not as helpful. Okay, last question, and then we'll stop. Yeah.
How can we go back to anxiety and how it's just kind of free-floating in our world? And sometimes I'll be pulling weeds, and the next thing I know, I am on the 80th floor of the World Trade Center, and I'm figuring out how am I going to get down to the bottom, because the plane has just crashed into it. And I'm so far into these visualizations that before I even catch myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, is this the same thing as, am I creating karma when I'm talking, when I think about those kinds of things and actually visualize myself in it?
You mean visualizing yourself in accidents and stuff like that? What's going to create karma is if you have attachment or aversion. Yeah, the thoughts themselves, yeah, they put latencies in your mind, but the karma is, karmic imprints are much more if you have, the motivation there. But it's not really helping you to visualize those kind of things, is it? Yeah. So it's good to, set, when you're doing something, set a strong intention. This is where mindfulness comes in, to be mindful of your precepts, mindful of how you want to hold your mind while you're doing a certain activity, and then use the introspective awareness to see if you're there, or if you're, all of a sudden in the World Trade Center when it's falling down, And if you are, then, come back to where you are, with the weeds. Okay. I think that kind of thing happens to all of us in some way or another, huh? Yeah, so just notice, okay, I'm off in la la land. Let's come back.